Look, Arsenal have beaten Wolves 2-1 at the Emirates, but I'm far from happy. I'm far from happy with the performance. I'm far from happy with a lot of the rhetoric and narrative during and after this game. I'm not happy with another injury to Ben White. In many ways, this is a good night, right? Because let's look at the positives. You play terribly, you sustain another injury, albeit that had no impact on the game really, but you do. It's part of what happened today, and you find a way to win. What do they say? Champions find a way even on their worst days. But we have to be really honest about where this Wolves team are. They have a brand new manager who's not known for his defensive resilience, let's say. He's a long-term manager with a view to, if they go down, maybe bring them back up. And they've got, 2 points in the Premier League this season? So Arsenal, especially after what they did in Bruges the other night, should have had a spring in their step, should have come out firing, had ideas for how to break this team down, and they didn't. And I'm really, really concerned. Look, they did, right? They found 2 goals. But let's be honest, Bukayo Saka found 2 goals. Bukayo Saka made 2 things happen as 2 own goals, essentially won us the game against Wolves. They're probably value for a point, Wolves, for being really, really honest, for the way they fought and the way they defended. But we found a way to scam a win. Now, again, sometimes Premier League champions do that. Sometimes the teams that go on to win the title have had some ugly wins in there in which the rivals have looked at it and gone, how have they got away with that? They played terribly. How did they do that? So I have no problem with us once, twice, 3, 4 times a season, maybe in 38 games, having those kinds of performances. But this one did have some concerns. Like I said, I'm concerned with the performance. I'm concerned with the rhetoric and narrative, and I'm concerned with the Ben White injury. So let's talk about all that in detail. But I want to start on a positive. I know I just kind of gave one there with the whole champions sometimes find a way, right? I'm not delivering it with a smile, am I? I'm delivering it I'm forcing myself to look at it that way. But you know what? For the sake of argument, let's mention it. I'll touch on the only genuine positive. And this also goes into my frustration about some of the narrative and rhetoric throughout this game. Bukayo Saka was brilliant. Not when his corner came off the post and off the back of Johnson in the back of the net. Not when he put the ball into the box for the own goal that won us the game. Throughout the match, he was brilliant. And I tweeted 20 minutes into it, I think I said, Saka's on fire tonight. And I got absolutely battered in the comments by people putting skull emojis, laughing, saying, the I'm dead thing, I'm dead laughing. There were people saying, really? There were people saying, They're saying, what are you watching? All of that. We need to stop judging players on goals and assists. Because Bukayo Saka all night was the only one with decent ball retention, with good decision making, who's actually getting the ball into dangerous areas. He whipped the ball into Timber in the first half, whose header went over the bar. That should have been 1-0. He then whips the ball with his right foot across goal to Gyökeres. That should have been 1-0, really 2-0 if Timber takes his chance. And Saka should be going in at half-time with 2 assists. He doesn't. He's carrying the team. He's the one picking out the passes to Ben White, to Jurriën Timber, to Eze, whoever it is in the half space. He's the one beating his fullback, whipping crosses to the front post, back post. He was doing it all. It wasn't exactly coming off for him every time. It wasn't always coming off for the team in terms of finding a goal, but he was making things happen. And the reason I get really, really frustrated is because you almost get to a point where you feel scared to praise a player unless they've basically been Ronaldinho for the first 30, 40 minutes, or they've got a goal and assist to their name for the work they've done. Bukayo Saka was brilliant today, and you could tell as the game was going on that if anybody was going to win us this game, it was him. Now, some of the narrative around him I've disagreed with is he's not been the same since his hamstring injury. Real Madrid, the Newcastle game earlier this season, there have been games where he has been brilliant. Fulham, Atletico Madrid, sensational in these games. He's been hit and miss, I agree. But tonight, he looked at everyone around him going, none of you are on it. And he dragged us over the line. Thank you, Bukayo Saka. Very reminiscent of his performance against Fulham, where he was the one making things happen. But this time he really, really did, because it's his cross to the back post that quite literally hits the back post from a corner and goes off the keeper. And then, as we've just conceded in the 90th, 91st minute or something, and we'll touch on that in a sec, Arsenal have gone and found a winner, or shall I say Bukayo Saka has gone and found a winner. Because this was Bukayo Saka's win more than it was Arsenal's. Now, I know that might sound like a real harsh thing to put on the rest of the players. I'm not saying everybody was absolutely terrible, but Bukayo, you were the guy. Thank you. That's my big positive from tonight. I'm not happy, people. I'm not happy with what I've watched. I can give credit to Saka. I can give credit for finding a way. But I've got a lot of concerns from tonight. That was the narrative issue I've got. Now, the performance, where do we start? I want to stress that I really don't think you can be talking about Mikel Arteta in this game. Why? Because Mikel Arteta doesn't ask for Martinelli to head it over the bar. We'll talk about him in some detail in a bit. He doesn't ask for Martinelli to head it over the bar or for his side-footed effort to go wide or Gyökeres not to attack a ball into the box. He's not telling the players not to do that. So as poor as we were, we could have been 3-4 up before we'd even scored because there actually were good enough chances for us to score. But I'm surprised that he started Zubimendi because Zubimendi just didn't look at it today. Great in midweek against Bruges. Fair play. But it was another start for him. I felt he should have come out. I think we could have gone with dual eights, whether it was Eze and Ødegaard, but cool, maybe Ødegaard wasn't ready to start. You could have gone Waneri. You could have even gone Marino, whose minutes they've been managed better throughout the season. But no, he went with Zubimendi. I thought it was a really strange one. It's the only thing I find strange about Arteta's management. Now, the Ben White injury, you can say, you've gone from basically not starting back-to-back games for well over a year maybe, to suddenly you're playing 4 games in a row and starting 4 90s in a row. To be fair, I think injury somewhat... Well, do you know what? Actually, I was about to give Arteta the benefit of the doubt. I was about to say injuries to the back 4 have somewhat forced Ben to start all these games. But actually, you can't say that's true because Saliba was back fit to start. So we could have gone Timber, Saliba, Nketiah, lewis-skelly. When I did my predicted 11, I never thought Saliba was available. With that information, yeah, I'm probably not starting Ben White. But easy to say now. At the same time, he's sprinting back because Hwang is suddenly through on goal and he pulls a hamstring. That could happen at any moment to any player. So it's a touch unfortunate. But there are questions there. Otherwise, I don't think you can look at Mikel because I think the team, whatever he put out there, had enough out there to ask more questions of Wolves than they did. Bukayo Saka was the one asking the questions. Let's tick things off my tick list that I want to talk about. The White injury, Saka done. The Hwang chance. Shocking defending. Anyway, speaking of Hwang, was that a red card? I'd love you to know your thoughts in the comment section below. I think it easily could have been. I do agree he's pulling out the challenge. And even though it looks high, I think you watch it at full pace. I don't think he's ever actually injuring Miles Lewis-Skelly with that. I think in slow motion looks worse. But if they're given a red, I don't think he'd be too surprised either. But I think they probably got the right decision. Cool. That first half, Gyökeres, shocking. Absolutely shocking. This coming from the guy who's defending him more than most. I've really tried to make the case for the team improving and benefiting from him being in the side. There was none of that today. There was attempted channel runs. There was attempted hold-up play. There was moments where he was stronger than the centre-back, but not often enough, not good enough. His best play was when a ball's chipped over the top. He managed to chest it down, hold the defender off, and get a left-footed effort at goal in the second half. That's all Gyökeres did. Really, really poor. We need more from him. And Jesus didn't look today like he looked against Bruges. To be fair, he had 20 minutes less to prove anything. He still looked sharper. Martinelli, I mentioned him. The first half against Bruges, I said very little on it because the second half he was really, really good. Awful today. Sorry, awful. Nothing was coming off. Dribbling appallingly. There was one moment where he actually beat the fullback, which was Doherty, or the wingback, should I say, in the second half. And he pulls the effort wide. The finish is poor, but I don't want to even give him too much credit for beating Doherty because there was the one time where Doherty actually pressed onto him and made the decision for Martinelli to go on the outside. So Martinelli goes, brilliant, thanks. Takes the touch, goes, uses his pace. And look, he does well in that moment, but he pulls it wide. Not good enough from Gabriel Martinelli. And then he misses a great header, a great opportunity in the first half and blazed that over. I love Martinelli. He's not had many minutes. I can understand a bit of rustiness. But we've also seen that his finishing and his impact has been good enough at moments this season. That wasn't good enough from him today at all. Him and Gyökeres, miles off it, where Saka was very, very good. Now, Arteta could sense where the game was going and how the players were playing because he made early subs. Trossard, Marino, and Ødegaard came on for Eze, Martinelli, and Zubimendi. So we mentioned Martinelli and Zubimendi. Eze, look, a lot of people are really going on Eze. Some people say he was ghosting. Some people say he wasn't in the game. I think that's a touch harsh. He wasn't good enough, but by no means was he good enough. But I saw him try to beat players and create better angles for crosses. I saw him slip a couple nice passes into Saka behind the back four. I saw him trying to receive the ball and not just let off immediately, but actually twist and turn, make the defender think. But it didn't happen for him. I don't think he's a 10. He's a moments player when he's in the pockets, but otherwise he should be out on the left, trying to beat players and getting on the end of moves. I don't want to see him as a 10 when Ødegaard is fully fit and available to play. But you need Ødegaard higher at the pitch with Eze and them two combining in front of Zubimendi and Rice. That's the quartet you need to build behind Gyökeres, Havertz, Jesus. Take your pick, whoever you want. So those are the early subs in the second half. Right. So the goal comes because we win a corner. Ball over the top. I was actually looking away. I think they said it might have been offside. Saka might have been offside from the ball to Rice, but you get a corner, and this is where VAR has flaws, right? But okay, we got very lucky today. Brilliant ball whipped to the back post from Saka, off the post, into the back of the net. He was looking lively, but from that moment, something happened that's been a trend of Arsenal's for a little while, which is that we haven't been able to get an equaliser or get that first goal in the game and build on that momentum. We didn't do it against Chelsea. We didn't do it against Villa. We did do it against Sunderland, to be fair, but we have struggled to get that goal and then go, right, now put your foot on it and go. Bayern Munich, I think, was true, but we responded brilliantly in the second half. So that is true. There's a bit of a trend where Arsenal aren't able to then kick on from that first goal. There were moments, we had chances, Erdegaard blazed it into the side netting. There were moments like that. Declan Rice, who I thought largely actually had a pretty poor game, had moments where he was getting strikes at goal and trying to drive us forward. The endeavour was there from Rice. The quality wasn't. There'll be a player ratings. We're going to tier list every player and how they did. But generally, Arsenal then went into a period of 2-3 minutes where Wolves just had the ball. Constantly had the ball, moving it, until eventually Cross comes into the box and the header, they beat Nketiah to it and it goes into the back of the net. At that point, do you know what it was? I was furious, but I almost wasn't surprised. I was still furious watching the game at 1-0 up, that I was sat there going, do you know what? It's what we deserve. Like, I am so disappointed anyway. But you know what? You got 5 minutes. Let's see what we can do. Now, another concerning thing is that that's a third goal in 4 or 5 Premier League games that we've conceded in added time, or near enough that. Sunderland, Villa, and this game. Now, if Bukayo Saka doesn't pull out that moment, that's another late equaliser or winner that we've conceded. I started to last week touch on, and I say touch on, the mentality of this Arsenal team. The mentality that I think has been flawless throughout most of this campaign. I started to question it as our performances were dipping away from home. Our ability to raise it for the big away games and our ability to control those games was getting lost. And we were starting to concede goals and chances late in games and in circumstances and context of games that we shouldn't be, like 10 men against Chelsea. And I saw that goal went in and I thought, oh no, this is actually becoming a problem. We responded and we kicked that chat to loose cannons, or maybe later down the line. I won't go into it too much, but rest assured, it's a concern for me. That, the injuries, the performance, they're concerns. Wolves' pressure gets the goal, gets them the equaliser. Arsenal respond well, and Saka again whips the ball into the box. I thought Jesus got the winner. I really wish he had. It was an own goal, but you know what? He was in the box and he forced the defender to try and get his head on it and get it wrong. Sorry, a very lively, very passionate match reaction because I'm not happy with that. But please people, these are match reactions. This isn't a video, how do I feel about Arsenal in the title race? I'm not doing that video. Do you want my thoughts? I still think we'll win it. I still think we're going to get over the line. Why? Because I'm not letting one performance against Wolves or a cluster of performances against Villa, Wolves, where we've not been quite our best, completely overshadow what we did against Spurs, what we did against Bayern, what we did away at United, what we did away at Newcastle, what we did in the second half against Man City, where I suppose we forced them into a 5-5 shape, didn't we? Like, whatever good has come from this season, Atletico Madrid, I'm not letting all of that go overshadowed by 1, 2, maybe 3 games which we've been pretty uninspired by Arsenal. However, there are trends there that Arsenal need to fix quickly. And I fear that they don't get fixed until your leaders come back, like William Saliba and Gabriel. One of them came back in Saliba. Did it fix too much? No, I thought he did well today, though. We need Gabriel back too. But we can't keep making these excuses because ultimately, that back four that played the game, Timber, starting right back last season, Saliba, starting centre-back, Nketiah, a backup who we all considered an upgrade on Kivior, and Lewis-Skelly, starting left-back from last season. So we're talking one player. So we can't say that Gabriel's the reason why we didn't have a particular level of performance. But I worry that in terms of a trend from games and getting some security mentally back in this team, we might need Gabriel back. But that might not reflect well on the team either. Look, to reiterate one more time, I think we're going to win the league. I think we're a very, very good side. Today wasn't evidence of it. Teams can be shocking. Man City, who we think could well win this league, were 5-1 up against Fulham, and it ended 5-4. That should never happen to a team that could potentially win the league. What we did today against Wolves should never be a performance that you see from a team that could win the league. Aston Villa didn't score for the first 5 games of this season. That should never be something you talk about when you're discussing a team that's potentially going to win the league. But that is true of all those teams. So someone is going to have a stain on their record when it comes to 38 games played and they sit at the top. Someone is going to have that. So brush it off. Forget about it. Go on to the next game. But my word, learn from this too. And learn from those trends I mentioned. Injuries, the lack of controlling games, the late goals. Learn from it, Arsenal. That's all I'll say. Bukayo Saka, thank you. Still love this team. Still love you all. But I had a lot to get off my chest. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Oh, I tell you what, a week till Everton. They need that. I need that. Catch you in a bit.